Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Mitigating the High Cost of Low Office 365 Adoption. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin the presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute you, or you can submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll answer questions throughout the presentation and also follow up after the presentation to answer any additional questions. I'd like to introduce today's speaker. We have Jennifer Totten, our product strategist here at Socius, as well as Casey Trujillo from BrainStorm to help present as well. So at this point, Jennifer, I believe we're ready to transition over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to learn a little bit more about how to mitigate the high cost of low adoption. We're going to start, and I'm just going to dwell on this one stat here. We're going to start by talking about the fact that when Office 365 is used and adopted in the way it's intended to, companies see a 48% increase in productivity, which is awesome. And that's one of the biggest reasons clients purchase Office 365. However, not all clients get there, because one of the biggest challenges we see Office 365 clients facing is low user adoption. And it's understandable because it's easy to underestimate the amount of ongoing attention that's required for long-term successful use of Office 365. And we know that change is hard, and without the proper level of change management and user accountability, users will find it very easy to slip back into old habits. Both of these things have big price tags associated with them. As a managed services provider for Office 365, Socius obviously wants our clients to achieve that 48% increase in productivity and to make the most out of their investment dollars. So when we designed our managed services offering, we knew that we wanted one of the top features to be focused on making sure that clients have everything they need for successful adoption and ongoing success of Office 365. So we decided to partner with BrainStorm to deliver a best-in-class modern automated user adoption and training platform, and we joined forces with them to collaboratively train our Office 365 adoption resources on the best way to partner with clients for maximum benefit. So we're very excited to host this session with our valued partner in Office 365 success, BrainStorm, today. And with that, I'll hand it over to Casey, who will share some eye-opening numbers with us and show us just what BrainStorm brings to the table.
Jennifer, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Glad to be here with everyone. I am Casey Trujillo. I'm the National Sales Director here at BrainStorm. Been with the company a little over 6 years. And one of the reasons why we chose Socius as a partner to work with this is because they see the value of Office 365. They're just not satisfied with selling an Office 365 license to you or implementing it. They see a bigger vision. And those are the companies we want to work with to help spread that out to the organizations that actually put it in place. So what I've put on the screen here, and what you're seeing is I took 3 different organizational sizes, whether it be 250 users all the way up to 500 users. Maybe some of the people on the call today are over 1,000 users. I think you'll get the gist of what we're talking about here. You go through your Microsoft renewal, you enter into maybe a 3-year agreement or a 1-year agreement, however you work that contract. And we put some hypotheticals there in the spend. So that's what you're spending for your Microsoft Office 365 licenses. So 105,000, 147,000, 210,000. And this is where, as we talk to the executive team or the project manager that's over Office 365, what if you stayed around that normal percent that most organizations achieve with Office 365? What if users only adopt Outlook, Word, and Excel, and maybe some PowerPoint? Well, there's 85% of what you just spent just sitting on the table. And you can see quickly how this will add up, because we're not allowing our organization to actually utilize the full capabilities of what we just purchased. I'm not sure that there'd be any CIO that when they invested $210,000, that their return on investment was $31,500. I don't think anybody would be excited about that. So as you're thinking about that, you're probably asking yourself, well, what are we missing out on? What applications aren't we using with Microsoft technology? And so I just took a quick screenshot of the Office 365 Waffle. You've probably seen it in your screen in the top left-hand corner. You click there, and it seems like something new gets added every day. You're probably looking at the screen and saying, what the heck is Flow? What's social engagement? SharePoint. We've heard about it, but we've never actually understood what it could actually do for my company, right? As you're looking at these different applications, this is everything that you have today that you could be utilizing. But I'm sure if we were to take a quick polling, if Jennifer asked a polling question, there's probably 2 or 3 of these that you're using today. So what does that actually mean? And don't feel bad, because there was a recent survey that just went out, and it talked about there was $30 billion of unused software in 2015. Well, this is part of it, is users don't know what they don't know, and an organization doesn't know what they don't know. How do we change that 10 to 15% of what most people use of Office 365 and hire it to 30%, hire it to 50%? That's what Jennifer was talking about at the start, is if we can actually get users to use more of the applications, it's just not you're getting more of a return on investment on your spend, it's that you're actually becoming more productive. Now, to take this just one step further in what we're talking about, you might be saying, well, I think we do a pretty good job of using Office 365. Well, here's the quiz. Do any of these other products show up at your organization? Because if they do, Microsoft has an application that you currently own. So, for example, I was doing the same presentation. Microsoft had invited me out to do this presentation for a group of CIOs. One of the CIOs said, no, we're pretty good in consumption of Office 365. I don't know if this is actually talking to me personally. So I brought up the screen and just said, hey, do you recognize any of this information? And his eyes immediately went to Dropbox and said, oh my gosh, we have about 700 users. We spend about 140 grand in maintenance every year, and that's not just that, and that's not the licenses. That's just maintenance. And then his eyes went to WebEx. And then he looked up and he saw, oh my gosh, we do have Domo. Microsoft has something that competes with Domo. So all of a sudden, you could see the wheels spinning in this person's head, because they weren't just thinking about how much they're spending in contracts. They were thinking, well, I have a support desk that actually has to support all these applications. I have a small training team, and they're also supporting all these different applications. All of a sudden, that cost started to have that compound effect, where it just wasn't the cost of licenses. So why do we get into this underutilization, and how do we get to a better utilization? Well, as we discussed with Socius and Jennifer and team about, what are some of those key insights we could bring to you, and why don't our users adopt the technology that they have? These are some of the key insights that we've both brought to the table that we want to talk about, and then actually provide a solution to change that. So here are 4 different insights that we have seen that impacts the way an organization works. Number 1 is we have to understand that in today's age, we have different types of users. And these users come with a different skill set and technology, and also a way in which they like to learn. So, for example, just yesterday, I had my washer break. Well, my first thought wasn't to go to a training manual. It wasn't to call a 1-800 number and have someone walk me through it. My first thought was, I'm going to go to YouTube. I'm going to go search this out and see if I can find a quick answer. And obviously what I was looking for was a short how-to video, had a lot of likes, that I know that it was trusted. And I went, I saw it, I found it, and I immediately answered that. I was pretty impressed. Saved me some money, right? Well, that's me, and that's how I like to learn. My father-in-law had a similar issue just happen. Well, he called the 1-800 number and had someone handhold and walk him through it. That was what he preferred. So in today's learning, we need to give them different ways to learn that actually meets the way that learner appreciates to learn and is their go-to way of learning. So that's point number one. Point number two, how many of us have been to a training where it had nothing to do with your job? Obviously, you attended today because there was something that resonated to you on the message that was sent out from Socius about the high cost of low adoption. There's probably a particular problem you're thinking about. Or, gosh, you know what? We just had this conversation yesterday. How do we use more of Skype? Or how do we use more of OneNote? Well, if that's what you're interested in, well, the learning better tailor to that. I'll show you in just a second the solution we're going to talk about. That's the reason why Nationwide that uses the solution we're about ready to show you. That's why they call us the Netflix of learning, because it takes that personalized approach to, if this is what I like and this is what I do, well, it's going to give me other content that's suggested that is relevant to what I currently know. Number three, we've talked about that Waffle. We talked about all the new things that Microsoft is adding. I don't know if you have seen the Office 365 roadmap. If not, I'm sure Jennifer and her team, the managed services, they're gonna map that out with you. They're gonna say, okay, hey, here's what you have today and here's what's coming. Well, how do you stay up to speed with everything that Microsoft is giving you? How do I know that that might be a new application that I actually want to deploy across the organization? Well, Jennifer, our team, we're going to work together to show you how you can stay up to date with that content where it's not overwhelming, it's automated, and really helps you to understand what you have and, of course, a way to get that out to your users. Number four, we need whatever learning that we're going to give to our users, it has to be proactive. It has to engage the user. It has to find a way to get time from the user. All of us are way too busy. All of us have less than 2 minutes to spare. So how do I grab that user's attention in a proactive manner versus waiting for that user to hopefully come and want to learn more? How do I get them in their moments of need? How do I be proactive in my approach? So with those key insights, this is where we want to dive into a solution set that we want to talk about that has been helping organizations change the way that they work. And so I actually like to give you an example of, well, what does that mean, Casey? What does it mean to be productive? Jennifer talked about, hey, users are 48% more productive if they actually consume Office 365. Well, what does productivity actually mean to me? So I'm going to give just kind of a common scenario that we all deal with. And so I'm going to pop over this email here. And Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind giving me a quick yes, can you see this email? Is that popping up okay?
It is.
Thank you very much. So what you can see is a common scenario all of us deal with every day. This is Joanne. She would love to meet. She wants to have time to talk. She just doesn't have time today. Well, she's outside of my organization, so she can't see my calendar. It'd be so much easier if she could see my calendar. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, yeah, I do that. I go to my Outlook, I go to my calendar, I screenshot it, I make it fuzzy on the appointments I have so they can just see what's available. Or maybe you check your calendar and you just write in what times are available. Well, what if we worked this way? What if I came in here and I hit reply all, and I came and I said insert. I chose my calendar. I'm going to choose some specific days next week. So let me choose, no one's going to be working Labor Day, so let's choose the 6th and the 7th. Only show my working hours and hit OK. And now, what Joanne's going to be able to see isn't my details of what's going on in my calendar. She's just going to be able to see when I'm free and when I'm busy. So quickly, in seconds, that user is able to reply back to me, because again, they're outside of my organization, they don't have access to my calendar. They can say, hey, yeah, you know what, let's do lunch at noon, or hey, 1:30 works good for me also. That quickly, I'm able to give that person access to my calendar in just seeing information, not seeing the details. Now, in a presentation I was doing, I had someone come up to me after and say, that comes with Outlook 2016 and Office 365, correct? I get that feature and that capability. And I said, you know, I'm sorry to say this, but this feature has actually been in since 2007. And what was so disheartening to this person was that they had been spending, they had a large sales organization, about 200 users, and they had actually bought a third-party application that plugged into Outlook that would allow their sales team to share their calendar. They had that feature and that functionality built right within Outlook. So again, going back to that high cost of low adoption, that's one of the examples that we're talking about. Now, let's take this a little bit further. So here, we're going to pretend that Joanne responded back, said, yeah, great, 1:30 worked good. I'm going to set up an online meeting. Well, I'm just going to come over here, and I'm going to hit, I want to respond with meeting, reply with meeting. I'm going to click that. It's going to pop open that information right there. Now, one of the great things that you're going to see about this is I can pop in my Skype meeting just by hitting join Skype meeting. You can see, boom, it enters in that information right there. So for some of you that might be using WebEx, or join meeting or something else, you all know, hey, I have to go set up the meeting, I have to copy the information, I have to go put it into Outlook, or you buy a third-party plugin. Again, going back to that high cost of low adoption. If I could save that sales rep or that executive admin 5 minutes by just hitting join Skype meeting and enter that information in versus having to go set up the meeting, grab it, paste it, or buy software for a third party, again, you can see those productivity savings that Jennifer was talking about. So now I have my meeting set up. Well, in any meeting, we all know what's going to take place is someone is responsible for taking meeting notes. Well, built right within, again, Outlook, I don't have to do anything extra, is I'm going to enter in OneNote. And OneNote is going to keep track of all of my meeting information. So let me take you and let me show you a little bit about how that looks. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit. So over to the left, you can see these are all the people invited to that online meeting. What you're going to notice is these little red check marks. If I'm using Skype for Business along with Outlook, this takes auto attendance for me. I'm not check marking those boxes. The system is understanding who the user is and dumping that information in there for me. And they don't have to be part of my network for it to do that. It's because of the registration and how they log in, I know who's attending this meeting and it's marking that for me. Now, as I come down here, of course, we're going to put in some meeting notes. We're going to put in different information. What are our goals? Different things like that. Well, in any good meeting, there's actually going to be action items. So how do we make sure that someone's following up with those action items? Well, OneNote integrates with Outlook. So I can come in here and I can actually assign a due date on when I want that action item to be completed. So if I was to assign this to Jennifer, I could choose a time when she needs to get this completed, put in the details. It's going to annotate that in OneNote in our meeting notes. When Jennifer gets back to her desk from this meeting, she'll have that Outlook task sitting there for her, letting her know that she's been assigned this and what the details are. The best part about it, though, is as Jennifer makes progress, it's going to update me on how she's doing with that. If she completes this before our next meeting, it will already be check marked in our meeting notes that she completed that task. Now, as you're thinking about your meetings and how you just came from a meeting probably, you're thinking, oh my gosh, we usually send an email and we put in who has action items, but we don't know if anybody actually accomplished that when we get back with the meeting. We have to do a little roundup to find out who completed what. How much time did we just save again? Right, going back to that productivity, high cost of low adoption. Now, as I assign out tasks, I can actually do screenshots of the whiteboard. I could put it in here. It's all searchable. Whatever we want to do, this is our place for tracking. Now, this is in OneDrive. So if I'm on my iPhone, I'm on my Samsung, I'm on my iPad, I'm on my Surface device, wherever I'm at, if I've granted access to this document on OneDrive in the cloud, I can update information real time. Now, at the end of every meeting, someone always does ask for someone to email out the page no matter what. Can someone send me the meeting notes? Well, again, all I have to do is come up here and hit email page. And again, I'm going to let Outlook do the work for me. So you can see it automatically popped in everyone that was registered for this meeting. It put in all of my meeting notes, who attended, and again, I can clean up my notes a little bit more and send that out. And again, those action items would be put in there. That's what we're talking about, productivity. And you can see that it went across 4 different Microsoft applications: Outlook, Skype, OneNote, and OneDrive. Think about how you run a meeting and how you have to collaborate with everyone after. I think you can see that you could probably increase more than 48% on those productivity savings. Some organizations have seen a lot more. And again, that's why I'm so excited. That's why we partnered with Socius, is because Jennifer and her team have that vision to help your team get there. So we walk through, what does success look like? How do we actually make this scalable? How do we actually get our users to do this on an ongoing basis? And that's what we're here to demonstrate today, is BrainStorm and Socius have partnered up to talk about and to offer at the end of this presentation something to jumpstart your adoption. And it is our QuickHelp platform. And let me talk to you a little bit about what QuickHelp is. QuickHelp is a change management platform. It is designed to change the way your users work. And the way that we're able to accomplish that is for 4 key reasons. Number 1, we make what we produce personalized to the user. So as a user enters into the system for the first time, and I'm going to start this over here so you can see this, the user's asked to take a quick intake survey. And what we mean by that is 6 simple questions. And what we're looking for is, what does the user do every day? Because I don't know. If you have 500 employees, how do you keep track of what a user does with Microsoft technology? Do they use Outlook? Obviously. But do they use Word or PowerPoint? Or maybe they don't use any of that and they just use Excel, because that's all their job requires of them to utilize. Well, I want to know that. So if I'm going to give them content to learn, it's applicable to what they do every day. So as you can see here, it starts to ask me, hey, here's a list of all the Office 365 applications that you have access to. Which ones have you used before? And how frequently do you use them? Again, we want to know that information so the content we give to them actually makes sense. If I'm a heavy Excel user, I want to know that so I can actually give you content about slicers. I want to give you content about how to automate macros. I want to give you content that speaks to you, so you're not getting the beginner level information, or you're getting information about Word and you never use Word in your job, right? Let me gather that info so I can make that very tailored to you. The user from this point can just say, hey, that's enough information, I'm going on my way. If they have 10 more seconds, we're going to actually ask them, hey, do you work with a team? Do you work by yourself? Do you work remotely? We're going to gather that information. So now your user journey is being built. So that way, what information you get is going to be very personalized to what you do in your job every day. That is a huge difference in learning. Because most people say, here's a website, go look for it, try to find what you're looking for, or hey, we're holding some instructor-led training classes on this day, attend, and if it didn't cover what you wanted, sorry, we just don't have time or budget to continue to do this, right? You're allowing the user to say what they want to learn. Now, I'm going to jump into and show you a little bit about how this now works. Once I've given the information, it's now going to prioritize what I learn depending upon what I said I wanted to learn about, along with, as an organization, what do I want my users to learn? So if at an organization we're going to eliminate WebEx and we're going to put in Skype for Business, well, I want to assign that from an organizational level that every user in my organization will learn Skype for Business. That is an organizational goal. But I'm still going to get information about how to be mobile because that's something I chose I wanted to learn about. So we're going to mix those two together. Now, as I dive into one of these courses, you're going to see that I need to engage the user in a way that they want to learn. So this course takes a entire seven minutes. It's very short to the point. But you're going to see that there's a mix of different content that speaks to the user and the way that they want to learn. So right now, you're seeing a short little video vignette. The video vignettes are usually less than 2 minutes. I think the longest one's a little over 5, but the average is under 2. Over to the right, though, I might just want to get started with Skype and learn how to sign in and sign out. Well, there's a little PDF that's going to walk me through that. I just download it. I could print it out. I could have it on my second monitor. Whatever I want to do with that, I have that option now to do that because that's the way I want to learn. Well, what if I love hand-holding? What if I want to talk to somebody? Great. Sign up for the instructor-led training. Choose a day and a time that works for you. And what's going to take place is you'll actually watch the learning right from within the platform. There will be a live moderator to answer that user's question. So we have 3 different ways to learn depending upon how I want to learn. And that's built into any skill path that we want to offer to our users. So if you're trying to gain OneDrive adoption, or people want to learn a little bit more about OneNote, whatever that might be, we're going to provide these different ways of learning that will appeal to that user. Now, as we get that information and people start to learn, well, then we want to get into the user's head. How do you envisioning using Skype? How could it actually make you more productive? And so one of the things that we have in the system is what we call polling questions. And in polling questions, there's 2 types that we're going to ask. Number 1 is, now that you understand Skype for Business, how will you personally use it? How could your team use this to automate some processes? That feedback is invaluable. And you'll have access to that. Your admin will have access, or admins will have access to that information to gather that. Another question we might want to ask, though, is testing them out and making sure they understood what just took place. Think about a new hire. So, hey, you just got hired on here at Socius. Well, I want to make sure you understand how to schedule calendaring appointments internally, so you're not setting an appointment for someone when they're obviously blocked on their calendar. Security. You know, if I get an attachment, what should I do with it? What things should I be looking for? Well, here's what you need to learn, and then I'm going to test you out to make sure you retain that information. It'll grade out. It'll put in there a test score to make sure you're passing grade. You can set that on what your passing grade needs to be. So you have this different way to gather user feedback. Now, where it gets really interesting is, obviously, it's great that this comes preset for all Microsoft content. So whether it's Microsoft Windows, whether it be SharePoint, Office 365, anything that Microsoft produces that touches an end user, there is that content in the system. But what if I wanted maybe to upload information around a new product that we're launching internally, our own product? Well, you could upload that custom content into the system. You could put in your own polling questions. You could put in your own testing questions. Maybe there's something very particular in how security does work there. You have your own security content you want to upload, or you actually have an application around that. If there's custom information you would like to put in, you can do it in a video format. You could do it in a PDF format. You can also put in your polling questions and assessment type questions to make sure that they're retaining that information. Now, we've talked about how this is personable, it's scalable. We've talked about there's different ways for users to learn. Again, all of this is driving users to do and work differently. Well, we also got to be proactive. We talked about that. We have to be proactive. We have to allow the user to understand a little bit more about maybe what's trending at the organization, or what else should I know about. So they'll have a little dashboard here that's going to walk them through about, hey, this is what's popular in your organization. People in your department, this is what they've been consuming. Let's say you're a champion there at the organization, and someone said, hey, you showed me that awesome way to work with documents in the cloud and co-authoring. How did you do that? Oh, hey, yeah, let me invite you to this instructor-led training session. I think you'd love it. It's 30 minutes in length. You can choose a day and a time that works for you, and all that person has to do is hit direct link, grab the link, and send that to their colleague. Or maybe they just wanted to see a quick little video about, hey, how do I set my out of office? Again, a user could search for it, find it, or if I just wanted to share that information, I just click on whatever I'm looking for, and again, that share button is always going to be there for me to provide that to the user, so that way they get that information in an easy way. So that is fantastic, whether you're a champion, whether you have a service desk team, of also showing them how quickly they can share information amongst their colleagues. Now, we talked about the ability to stay up to speed with Microsoft. So at BrainStorm, we have an entire team dedicated to just staying up with content. And that's extremely important, because if you as an organization decide that, hey, you know what, Teams, Microsoft Teams, that is something we want to start to take advantage of, Well, we better have the learning ready for you. And so as you can see, whether it be Microsoft Teams and getting set up and being able to manage information, or maybe it's the latest information in security or Power BI like we talked about at the start, you're going to have a platform to get that change out to your organization. And this is refreshed monthly. Again, that team will keep your users up to speed. So again, taking advantage of what Microsoft is giving you, you're going to have that. Now, Jennifer's team in that managed services is going to have, I believe, quarterly reviews. She's going to talk more about that to help you in gaining that traction. We have a client success manager that will work with Jennifer's team to make sure that we're aligning with your deployment the information you want to present. Because what we don't want to do, if you're not ready for Power BI or you're not ready for Teams, well, we're going to hide all of that content in the platform. You're starting out dipping your toe in Skype for Business. You're not going to use video features in Skype. Well, we'll turn that off, but everything else that talks about IMing, doing calls, doing the internal calls, different things like that, we'll leave those features and functionalities available. So we'll make this customized to your deployment time frame and how you're doing that. Now, let's start to back in and go a little bit into understanding, okay, what does this data look like? What's some of the information I can actually gather from my users? So what I'm going to drop into is our admin portal. And so at your organization, again, Jennifer's team, our team, and your point of contact, we're going to start to walk through, okay, what are we seeing? What's the information that we're gathering on what your users are consuming? So by day, we'll be able to see different bits of information. So in the system, we have Tech Tip Tuesday emails already ready for you. We already have the campaigns pre-built. You just put a day and a timer to it when you want it to be sent, and the system will run that. Well, you can come in here and start to see the effectiveness of that. Hey, oh gosh, I see spikes every Tuesday. That was, or gosh, that one that we sent out, that communication, that tips and tricks around, you know, how to manage the flood of email you get every day, that one didn't land as well. But analyzing data quicker with Excel, that one actually did. You're going to be able to see that. You're going to see who's registering for these 30-minute instructor-led training sessions. You're going to be able to see, hey, are people opening up the information that we're giving? Who's my top users? So if I want to identify champions and actually have them present maybe at a lunch and learn. Hey, Sierra, I see that you're the top user of Office 365. How are you doing it? Like, what things have you implemented that have changed the way you work? Well, I know that because I can see what content they're consuming, right? And now Sierra at a lunch and learn, instead of someone in IT or someone in training, Sierra, a fellow colleague, is saying, let me tell you how OneNote's changed the way I work, and actually walk through some business processes that she's automated. That is impactful, right? But I know that information because of what I'm seeing here. Those polling questions we talked about, they're going to come down here, and we're going to see that information right here. We're going to be able to dive in and say, hey, yeah, people are actually changing the way that they work. So I can come into these different polling questions and understand that information. One of my favorite polling questions that we have in here, and I'm going to click on this just so you can see a little bit more, is how introducing a colleague to Skype for Business. What does that mean, and what does that look like? So in the skill path, it'll actually challenge the user as they're going through their learning. Hey, talk to a colleague about what you love about Skype for Business. Our data has shown that when people go through that, 50% of the users that take that course actually introduce a colleague. That's the type of viral learning we're looking for, right? We want people to give information to others. There's polling questions in here that say, hey, how do you use Excel today? Do you use it as project management? Do you use it as to-do list? Do you do it to manage data quicker? We had, it was an automotive industry company. There's 6,000 users. The top #1 answer and how they used Excel was to-do lists. They're like, what? Excel? So they reached out to those people that responded and said, hey, tell me more. What are we missing? Well, come to find out, it was very inefficient, and they walked them through how OneNote would do a much better job of that. They changed the way they work, productivity gains, using more of what they already had purchased, right? So those polling questions are a great way to discover that information. Maybe you have onboarding, and you want to make sure that your new hires completed their training or security training. Did everybody test out correctly? Did they pass? All of that information you're going to be able to see right from within the admin board. So this is just touching on a little bit of the QuickHelp platform. This is what keeps everybody rowing in the right direction, how we like to call it. Now, obviously, if there is maybe an executive admin group and we feel like, you know what, we need to do a hand-holding session for them, we need to actually come on site and actually walk through an instructor-led training. There's a trainer there. You know, Jennifer's team, our team, we have courses built out to assist that. That's very user-specific, where we would walk an executive admin how to manage email, meeting notes, and calendaring items more effectively with Office 365. So outside of this platform, if maybe there's some instructor-led training, maybe something very specific you'd want to cover, that's also something that we can provide to help, again, in getting that consumption and adoption. So let's talk a little bit about how Socius and BrainStorm even want to help you a little bit more. And Jennifer, I think we could talk to this together, or you could take the lead on some of the things that we want to offer everyone that's attending today.
Sure. Well, how about I take the lead and we'll see if we can talk to it together.
Sounds great.
Sound good? All right, great.
Sounds
well, first
great.
of all, Casey, thank you. That was just an awesome presentation. It's so cool to hear the stories about customers finding hidden jewels just through working with BrainStorm. And there's so much functionality out there just waiting to be used. And it's really, really exciting to be able to harness, you know, that possibility within a platform like this that is just so easy to use. So thank you. Excellent presentation. So Socius, as I mentioned earlier, is a managed services provider for Office 365, and we have two of those plans, two of our plans include a focus on user adoption. So whether you're just purchasing Office 365 as a new client, or if you have owned it for a while and what Casey has said here today makes sense to you, that you know, you need to dig in a little bit deeper to ongoing user adoption and make sure that you're getting everything out of your system. What we would like to offer you is a no-cost adoption consultation to walk through how you're using the system today and maybe give you some pointers and make a recommendation on direction for you. So that is from Socius. And then from BrainStorm, they are offering a 45-day trial of QuickHelp. There's no obligation to purchase either one of those managed services package that I mentioned. And this is just our thank you to you today for attending the webinar and for showing interest in using, I guess, getting more out of your Office 365. Is there anything else, Casey, that you'd like to speak to regarding the trial?
You know, I think one of the things is obviously there's a little testing time where, you know, people want to make sure that they have everything set up. That doesn't count as part of the 45 days. I highly recommend you do the no-cost adoption consultation with Jennifer's team so they get an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. So that way we can set up the 45-day trial to match that accomplishment of what you're looking for. So I want you to let you know there's a little ramp-up time, a week or so, to just make sure everything's working correctly. We've set the system on how you want it to run, and then we agree on that start date. And it's 45 consecutive days for your entire organization. It's not a subset, entire organization. So I think that consultation component is so big in understanding what you're trying to accomplish, so then we can put the how in the QuickHelp platform to make that be accomplished. So I think that would be the only thing I'd add to that.
Great, thank you. It's awesome that it's available to the entire organization as well. I was actually just reading an article about how pilot programs typically fail when it comes to actually adopting the technology. Everyone's got to be all in because you need to find your champions. So good deal. Well, Lindsay, I think with that we're ready to move to any questions that our attendees might have.
Sure, yeah, just a reminder, if you do have questions, you can put them in the question box. But our first one that we have in there, is there a limit to the amount of customer content that you can upload?
A great question. So I always like, just in case someone is not sure what we're talking about. So inside of the platform, as we talked about, as I dive down into any one of those skill paths, we talked about being able to upload any of your own custom content. So as you can see here, when I opened up again that Skype for Business one, you can see a video here. Well, if you wanted to do your own custom video about how to get started with Skype, or you had a product like we talked about that you wanted to put in it, so whether it be a video, a PDF, doing your own polling questions or assessment questions, there is no limit, and that is part of the QuickHelp platform. So in that 45-day trial period, if you want to test that out, fantastic. Obviously it's a free 45-day trial, so there's no cost, obviously. If you actually entered in through a subscription through Socius to do this, then again, there's no cost to it, just the cost of the subscription to the platform. No hidden fees, no additional costs.
Awesome. And then our second question, how long after a new Office 365 app is released is the QuickHelp platform updated with training?
Oh, that's fantastic. So one of the ones I'll bring up just real quick to walk through that is one that a lot of people are saying, gosh, I haven't heard a ton about that, is one called Staff Hub. And what Staff Hub is for those of you that may have hourly workers, frontline workers that are trying to, you have to manage their schedule. Like, someone creates a schedule for them. It's on pen and paper. People take a screenshot of it so they know when they're supposed to work. Staff Hub is a Microsoft product that actually allows you to do that electronically. So they have an app. It's on all mobile devices. You can put in their calendar, their schedule in there, make it in there. If they're sick for the day, they need someone to cover them, they can put that information in the app. It goes out and lets their team know, and someone can cover that. That was just recently released. The information's already here for it, as you can see. So we're usually 2 weeks, because Microsoft will change the interface, a button here, or how it looks last second. So once it's a general release out to the public, we're usually 2 to 3 weeks behind that.
Awesome. And then those are the 2 questions that we have. If anybody does have any, you can put them in the question box. If not, feel free to reach out to Jennifer or Casey, and we will get those answered for you.
A couple of questions that I've received, kind of some of the top questions that a lot of people will ask me, and I don't know if maybe some people had this on pen and paper and forgot about it, was, we do have a diversity in languages. We actually have people that, we have an office in Mexico, or we have another office in Europe, or whatever that might be. There is closed captioning that's available in that. There's 44 different languages that users can choose from to help with that in multi-languages. So that's a common question we get. Question I actually had for Jennifer, and on the managed services component, can you talk to a little bit about that adoption consultation and kind of, some of the things you talk about, just so people get an idea of some of the things you might cover in that, some of the questions you're looking to discover there?
Sure. It does depend a little bit on whether or not you already own Office 365, of course, how we approach that discussion. But we start by, so let's say you already own Office 365. We start by gaining an understanding of what your original goals for implementing the solution are. And then, pardon me, and then talk about the technologies that are in use today. Try to uncover where you might be struggling. And from there, then we talk about a couple of business scenarios to get those gears turning on how you could better use Office 365. We, of course, would look at other technologies like the redundant technologies that Casey mentioned. And then from there, we, would recommend, I guess, a plan to you, or a path, and then move forward from there. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I wanted people to kind of get that, what you're talking about there, because of that power of outlining what you're actually trying to accomplish. So whether it be reducing a redundant app, whether it be, hey, you know what, this is our utilization with OneDrive today, it's less than 2%. And our goal in using Jennifer's team is to get this next to 15%. We're going to go into the Office 365 dashboard and measure this. In 90 days, I want to see a 10% increase or a 15% increase. Then what we'll do is Jennifer will relay that information to us, and then we'll highlight OneDrive. And we'll make sure that the features and functionalities that you want your users to consume, will be built into these courses. And again, it'll be built in depending upon what their job function is, because we understand that if maybe I'm at your organization, maybe let's say you're a financial institution and you have tellers. Well, tellers aren't going to put things in the cloud. They don't have documents that they're going to put in there. Their job is to get customer in and out, right? Well, we're not going to highlight OneDrive to them, but we will do it for the knowledge workers there at the organization. We're going to walk them through it. We're going to assign them content and say, hey, you have 21 days to complete this learning. It will give them little gentle nudges and reminders that they haven't completed it. You'll see that they've finished it, and you'll see a correlation in learning and adoption. We did this with Milliken Socius, their blue-collar company. They had started with 2 gigs of data in OneDrive. That's nothing, right? Everybody knows that. In 90 days, they did something similar where they went through an adoption consultation, then they applied QuickHelp, and in 90 days, they had over, I think it was 10 terabytes of data in the cloud. All of a sudden, they had over 600 users using OneDrive. But it starts with that adoption consultation, what Jennifer's doing, to then map out, okay, now what do we want to accomplish? Setting some measurements, doing some different things like that. So again, I just kind of wanted to walk people through why those 2 things are so important together. Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you, Keith. So I did want to add, if you do engage with Socius for the ongoing services outside of the trial, then we actually have someone on staff that serves the role that Casey was speaking to, that BrainStorm would serve during the trial, where they would highlight and set up skill paths and things like that. But we do have a dedicated adoption specialist that works with our Office 365 clients to go even deeper into strategic planning, so beyond that consultation, obviously, into strategic planning and then laying out a roadmap for success and talk about timing, users, all of that. So we are happy to, at another time, talk deeper about our managed services as well.
One other question that I get asked frequently is how do you actually get the users in the system? For those of you that have some type of single sign-on software, so whether you use an ADFS or Okta or whatever that might be, this does integrate with your single sign-on. So when a user gets a communication email and it says, click here to learn more, when they click it, it automatically takes them into the system. There's no username or password. There's nothing that they have to remember. We'll tie into that single sign-on and make that a seamless experience for the users. And Jennifer, for me, those are the top questions I usually get asked at the end of a presentation, is understanding how frequently we stay updated. Is there multi-language? How do my users get in? I don't want them to remember another username and password. Was there anything else that on the social side that had a question or wanted to bring up?
There are no other questions in the question box, so we will give everyone time back in their day if there's no other questions. And again, if you something does come up, definitely reach out to Casey or Jennifer. A couple upcoming webinars. On Tuesday, September 19th, we have Microsoft Dynamics tips and tricks. And then we have budgeting and forecasting. And then also you can see our entire webinar series on our website, sociusone.com. So definitely sign up for those, and we will give you guys time back in your day. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.